Well, I can go ahead and start to welcome everybody, just
Yeah.
from the standpoint of, the obviously, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. The Lincoln Awards were pretty amazing. So, kind of still coming down off of a high. Everybody I've talked to just really enjoyed that and was energized by it. So, um, hopefully, Wendy's daughter's doing okay. Sorry that she wasn't there to really celebrate.
Fabulous,
Greg,
fabulous
you want
program.
to do your
Mhm.
thought of the day here?
Oh, thought of the day. Well, I'm in Canada, so brotherhood. Let's see, working together. No reciprocal tariffs. Protect the environment. Okay, and I can
Not
say
our
that
fifth,
on behalf of all the
not our
people I've talked to
51st
so
state.
far. Yeah, right. So I'm from Vancouver today, and we're visiting grandchildren, and we're on the North Shore. The Pacific Ocean is just below me, but that's not why we're doing this today. We're talking about bird counts and how they relate to our well-being, everyone and every species. And so we're honored to have Donna McCarty with us today from Amos Butler Audubon. And we're going to talk a little bit about the international bird counts that are going on and what that means to science. And we're going to take it down to the local level, which is just as important as to what we do locally and what we have been doing locally, thanks to Donna and the Amos Butler Audubon. So, Kelly, would you like to do that quick video about
Mm.
uh,
Um,
um,
before
before
we
we
We'll
do
do
announcements
announcements
first?
first. We'll do announcements first
Okay.
from Eric, and then we'll jump into that portion of
Oh,
things.
okay, Eric.
Okay, happy to do that. Um, Again, this month we have been delivering grant checks totaling $58,000 to 13 community organizations that serve youth. I'm not sure if any of the others that have been delivering checks are on the call and want to talk about their experience doing that. I know it was.
Mary Bulk is on the call if she wants to tell us
All
about
right,
hers.
Mary, do you want to?
Yeah, I gave one of the 5,000 other grants to 100 Black men and convinced them that they need to come to the Abe Lincoln Scholarship, which they did. And one of them is working with Steve Farrow to probably become a member of our club. So it's a win-win all around. And
Excellent.
today I'll be going to Versity to give the $5,000 check to them, which is the blood bank, which is right across the street from Shortridge. And so they already work with Shortridge, and this will help with that project to help the kids learn about donation and probably expand this to other high schools. Maybe we can do that with some of our programs in the high schools that we have affiliations with. So
Excellent. Well, I
it's a
know
good
there's a
one.
critical blood shortage. So are they going to make you strap you down and
Oh
take your
Lord, they
blood
don't
while
want to
you're
do
there?
that.
Okay.
Is
Do you want
there
to?
is there a list of who we've supported?
I think Kelly has that list, right?
Yeah, I don't have the thing up on my screen right now. We'll put it in a newsletter, and when Eric goes through something else, let me see if I can find it, and I'll put the picture up on the screen.
Yeah, I ran
So,
into one group that had mentioned that they were applying, and I just wondered if the foundation decided to support
yeah,
them.
Big Brothers Big Sisters was the organization that I delivered to. So okay. And our 50th A awards last Friday was amazing. We provided five 4-year renewable scholarships toward totaling $64,000 to students from Ben Davis, Beech Grove, Decatur Central, Franklin Central, and Pike, and then $500 to 16 Circle of Valor honorees. I got to sit with the honoree from Cathedral High School, which turned out we all had a lot of people in common. And I know everybody was really grateful for those awards. And certainly the people have overcome some pretty incredible things. Since 1976, we have welcomed 903 students in the Circle of Valor and awarded $1,346,100 in scholarships to 200 students. Big shout out to Trent Cowles with Rockefeller Capital Management and Scott Harkness with Norris Choplin Schroeder for their $2,500 event scholarships. That really helps the organization. John Frank, Trip Lukemeyer, and Laura Holloway introduced the Circle of Valor and did a terrific job with that, including some difficult to pronounce names. Mary Bolk, Lamentia Steele, Nathan Ashworth, and Mary Lechner and Scott Harkness made special presentations to the scholarship finalists. Okay, save the third Thursday monthly on your calendars now for our Columbia Club lunches. We'll be up on the 10th floor most of the time. You'll have Zoom options on the first and second Thursdays, along with a lunch bunch or social supper to connect in person those weeks. And then look for some additional opportunities to meet at a not-profit for breakfast, lunch, or project during the fourth week. So I'm in the process right now of working with Big Brothers, Big Sisters to see if we can get something set up with them. You will also find upcoming dates under the events section of the websites. And we've added a Google Calendar and working on how to add that to your phone. So you can subscribe to it, and then our events will just automatically appear in a calendar on your phone. But here are some of the highlights. Thursday, the 20th, Kiwanis Legion of Honor, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 50-year awards. And a speaker from the Outdoor Youth Exploration Academy will be at the Columbia Club. On Monday, the 10th of March, lunch bunch at Iozo's. Roger Cummings is the person to RSVP on that to make sure you have a seat. And that lunch bunch has been fun because it includes a lot of Kiwanians that are members of other groups beyond ours. So I know we've had people from the Zionsville Club there, as well as some from the Lawrence Club. So definitely give them your reservation, because there may be quite a few people there. Saturday, March 22nd, the Indiana District Mid-Year Conference is at the Renaissance Indianapolis North in Carmel, and the keynote speaker will be from the Indiana Youth Institute. And Thursday, March 27th, the 79th Annual IHSAA Boys Basketball Finals Lunch at Gamebridge Fieldhouse will be our event. Tuesday, February 25th, during the third annual Kiwanis Day of Giving, Kiwanians across the globe will gather to raise $100,000 to reach 45,000 kids. Why 25? 225 is enough to make a difference in one child's life through the Kiwanis Children's Fund. Our foundation provides a $1,000 annual gift, and we will have several generous members who further that impact with individual gifts.
Mary Lechner, do you want to say anything else about that? I know that you had asked for us to make that announcement.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about that. February 25th is the Kiwanis Day of Giving, and it is part of our campaign that we're doing for the Children's Fund, which is the Possibility Project. It is our campaign to support Kiwanis clubs around the world to be able to do the incredible service projects that are serving children in their community. So I ask you all to mark your calendars, and through our grant program, like Eric said, it only takes $2.25 to impact just one child in a community wherever a Kiwanis club exists. So I ask everyone to mark your calendars and make a gift that's significant to you. And just know that dollar for dollar, you're impacting the life of a child. So whatever donation you make is going to impact a child where a Kiwanis club exists. So be following Kiwanis social media throughout that day. We'll be posting some updates and some social media posts. And we just hope that people are excited to come together and make donations all over the world to help more children who need Kiwanis the most. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Finally, I want to ask you all to lift up your hearts for the family of Tim Wilcox, who passed away on January 29th. Tim received the 2001-2002 Career Award presented by the Past President's Council. He was a member of the 2016 Kiwanis Centennial Committee, a Lincoln Fellow supporting the Lincoln Scholarships, and a 30-year Kiwanian. Visitation is Wednesday, February 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Leopard Mortuary in Nora, with a live stream celebration of life service at 1 p.m. So Tim was a really great member of our club. Really sorry to hear that he's passed. Okay, Greg, you want to go ahead?
Sure.
Or do we want to do the video now? Or
Well, I wanted first I wanted to thank Mary for what she's doing and let us know how we exactly can contribute to that particular day. And I want to thank Eric, you, and the others that did the fabulous program of giving thousands and thousands of dollars to these kids that have overcome their disabilities or problems. The young man from Afghanistan, just astounding to me. I just found that one to be amazing. All right, anyway, so today we're going to talk about why birds are important to us and maybe think of them in a slightly different context, even knowing they're descendants of dinosaurs. And I do want to say that I'm going to introduce my friend Donna McCarty. And before she goes through her program, I want you all to know that you know Donna McCarty because she designed the license plate that's on the environmental plate of the eagle. Yep. All right. So Donna has been active in Amos Butler Audubon for many years, including fundraising and leadership and legislation and everything. And I was going to ask her to describe, well, first we would want to do the little video about where we're going here. So Kelly, can you proceed in that regard? It's very short. Kelly's a magician here, which is.
No, give me a second to get back to my screen where that is.
All right.
Okay. All right.
All right. So Donna, explain. Oh, here
Yeah,
we
I'm
go.
there, Greg, when you're ready.
All right, go ahead. That was from last year, but it's going on right now this week as well. And as you can see, it's an international counting program to determine what birds are up and what birds are down. I'd like to get down to Indiana now and ask Donna to describe why we count birds internationally and about the Christmas count that we just did, which found 91 species here in Indiana. Donna, thank you for being here.
Well, my pleasure, and it's nice to hear about the projects that Kiwanis does, even though Amos Butler Audubon is a little bit more specific in our projects, but still it's great to see all these other organizations out with doing their philanthropic work. So that was very nice. I want to apologize in advance because I'm sitting here in my sunroom next to my bird feeders, and if something, pretty cool comes flying by like a pileated woodpecker, I'm going to look. So just want to get that out there right now. But the reason that I think it's so important that we get this information on birds is because, particularly right now with climate change happening, we need to watch what is happening with our bird species, because it's not only an indication of what's happening to them, but what's happening to a lot of other wildlife and us in the natural world. So Christmas bird counts and bird feeder counts, like the backyard bird feeder count, can tell a lot about what is happening with bird populations. Some species have really declined, some have moved into other areas, but it's all very important information to track what is happening especially about the declines, because that's very concerning.
Donna, how did this Chris count and these counts change from hunting to birds or killing them to record their numbers to viewing them worldwide? When did that happen? And wasn't Audubon involved in that? And who was this Frank Chapman?
Okay, well, I mean, he was one of the original founders of the Audubon Society, but yeah, it used to be the tradition to go out and hunt birds on Christmas. So when the Audubon Society got involved, they decided, well, why go out and shoot birds? Let's start counting birds. And it's become quite a successful citizen science project to, like I say, population trends, even though the people that are doing the counting are not scientists, still when this information is turned into organizations like the Cornell Ornithology Lab or Audubon, they can track trends, and it's become very important.
There is it goes back to 1900, I believe. It goes back a long ways. I mean, we're not
Yes.
just talking about something that's started recently. I thought in the Audubon magazine this month or last month, it showed that some of these groups have been able to find 2 birds in a particular area, and others in Ecuador or something like that have found 400. So isn't there a time? What are the time parameters to I mean, I know this week there's this international. What about our time parameters for the Christmas count? Do we do that on one day?
Well, yeah, so every group gets to select, they give like about a 2-week window to when you're supposed to do your bird counts, but every organization that's doing a count gets to pick their own particular day. And at Eagle Creek, we always do it on a Sunday because that's when there's a regular group of Sunday birders out there. But of course, it covers a much bigger area than just Eagle Creek Park. It's a 15-mile diameter circle. So it covers a lot of territory.
Have I don't think Chapman would be amazed at what has gone on since he started this with a few volunteers. Can you tell us from your knowledge what this year, when we did the Christmas count last December, were there any notable birds that were found that hadn't been found before, on any notables that you couldn't find? Or do you remember that?
Oh yeah, there was certainly one very notable bird that showed up on the day of the Christmas count, a bird called a red phalarope. And phalaropes are supposed to be, they're coastal birds, West Coast or East Coast, and they spend the winter out on the ocean. So when one actually showed up on the day of the Eagle Creek bird count, December 22nd, at a retention pond in an industrial complex in Brownsburg, that was quite exciting. Obviously, the first time that's ever been, that species has ever been turned in. It was a life bird for me, and I've been birding a lot of years. So it was quite astounding. It was actually there till December the 31st. Birders came from other states to see it. I mean, it was that rare to be in the Midwest. And then
Is
those
a
that hope to
good
get it
sign?
for their 2025 list, it left on the 31st. So
It probably went south because of that weather.
Yeah.
But that was very unusual. I mean, environmental conditions, luck, is that what would bring that bird into Indiana?
They
Yeah.
actually don't know what does that. There's been a lot of records of them showing up inland, but it's just very rare. And they really don't know why some of these birds get so far off track.
It was just a few years ago that we were concerned about, well, more than a few years ago, the bald eagle and the condor, but they've made a comeback. Is that because of people like the Audubon Society and others and the Fish and Wildlife Service that have made an effort to and protect species? And why? Why is that a way to prevent pesticides from killing birds? What do you think?
Well, of course, there was pressure from organizations like the Audubon Society, but it was, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife that actually had to come up with a plan to try to rescue these birds. And of course, Rachel Carson was the one that figured out what the extreme decline was for bald eagles. In the 1960s, we had less than 500 bald eagles in the lower 48 states. Now we have 320,000 of them. So it obviously has shown what a great success story you can have by, figuring out what a problem is, addressing the problem, and letting these birds, come back. And they've come back in a big way. It's also very interesting about the bald eagle. You might have read about, I think everybody's thought that's been our national bird for years and decades. And it turned out when somebody was doing a little research to find out when it was actually officially made the national bird, it had never been officially made the national bird until President Biden signed it into law on December 24th.
It's amazing. I know, it's just astounding. There have been some very disappointing losses. I remember when I went to many times to Guatemala, there was a beautiful flightless grebe. And during the war, that thing was destroyed. I believe that there's nothing left there. And then there's always been a dispute as to whether the ivory-billed woodpecker exists anymore. So there are some downers, and our environment and what we do every day and what the weather does has a great effect on what birds are up and what are down. But I thought that's a good summary of kind of where we're at. I know we see grackles and blackbirds a lot, but there's a lot out there, and we're going to show you some more pictures in a moment of some others. So I know that for many years, you and me and others have been working on a project called Amos. Well, first of all, who was Amos Butler? Who was Amos Butler that we call Amos Butler Audubon?
Okay, so well, Amos Butler was actually kind of as an early ornithologist here in Indiana, and he, kept track of bird sightings and wrote. He's the one that's established the historical record of what birds were here in Indiana. So he was sort of our original ornithological historian.
And to each Audubon group around the country or the world has a particular name, and ours is called Amos Butler Audubon to honor him. I know that. Now let's take it a step. We talked about the international counts. We talked about our own count in December last year to a certain extent. Let's talk about what we do about the birdathon. What is the Amos Butler birdathon? How did it start? What has been going on? How much money has it raised? And what exactly is that money? Well, what has been typically the money that has been raised over the last, 20 or 30 years? How many years have we been doing this? I don't. What is it used for? And give me a couple of examples of where the money was used this year, for last year.
Okay. Well, the birdathon, the National Audubon Society was starting a birdathon event, trying to encourage chapters to have a birdathon event, which is a fundraising event, like most thons are. So our chapter got involved in 1987, that we had our first birdathon to raise some money for actually a project in Costa Rica, and also to support the National Audubon Society. And we only raised about $4,000 back then. But this has been going on for years. I was the chair for about 35 years. I have stepped down as chair, but I still run the grant program for it. And over the years, since 1987, we've raised, around $1 million or so overall. From starting out at $4,000 in 1987, now we regularly raise over $30,000 each year for the birdathon. We have teams that go out, try to get sponsors for their teams, and raise money for the birdathon. There's a competition for species count, who gets the most species, and also for who raises the most money. So nice little competition, very successful. Like I say, in raising money. We have started a partnership with an international organization called the American Bird Conservancy to do projects internationally, because so many of our birds spend the winters, not here, but in Central and South America. This enables us to do projects with an organization that can actually have boots on the ground, can oversee the project, and we know the money that we donate to them gets used.
Do they purchase land with our money? Do they?
We have purchased
work with
land.
local. And
Yeah,
do they work with the
in
local
Costa
communities
Rica,
to?
yeah,
Mhm.
and also in Ecuador and Colombia, but mostly now we are donating money to kind of oversee the land that's already protected, to increase the habitat. And interestingly enough, some of the habitat that is most successful for these birds in Central and South America is coffee plantations, shade-grown coffee plantations. So it's kind of a win-win for people to have an occupation and save birds. But so the American Bird Conservancy, over the years, we have donated $345,000 to them since about 2000. National Audubon, 67,000. Research, 65,000. Eagle Creek Park Ornithology Center, 46,000. And the Marion University Ecolab, 30,000. And so we've done research projects with Indiana University, Ball State, Purdue University, habitat protection with Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, Central Indiana Land Trust, the Indiana Forest Alliance, and we've also supported some wildlife rehabilitators because of their educational impact on people.
So in our way, we're similar to the Kiwanis in many ways because we're helping generate funds that are used by locals and by individuals who might not otherwise have these funds to work with their plantations or work with Hoosier National Forest to do studies. And how important are these studies? How important, what is this? We're not just doing this, we are, protect the beautiful bird and their habitats, but what does this mean to science? What does this mean to looking at the past and the future of our environment?
Yeah, I think our research projects with these graduate students at the various universities I mentioned, Purdue and IU and Ball State, it's amazing how just a few $1,000s go such a long way, and the amount of energy and effort and time that these students will put in to studying these birds to try to, figure out a particular problem, and more importantly, to come up with a potential solution, or, to let the world know that we need to do something to protect this habitat. We need to do something. Otherwise, these birds are going to disappear.
I saw we gave some money last year to the a place called the Utopia Wildlife Rehabilitators. I don't know how many people ask me, or have had people ask me, what do I do when an injured animal occurs that we find on the road, or we're looking at an injured deer, or we're looking at an injured whatever. It's so important to have educated people that are out there, I would think. And I bet you would agree to be able to take care of these animals, because sometimes it's an emergency. You can't just take them to the Eagle Creek Ornithology Center. Don't you agree with that? Yeah, in other words, rehabilitation is another possibility. And also those who are involved are at IU or at Butler or whatever, and are getting education for their own vocations possibly. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, as vets or whatever. So I think
they publish papers, in scientific journals, really done some wonderful research. IU was doing a study on window strikes for birds, and that has actually resulted in, some major buildings putting in special kind of glass, putting in things that keep birds from striking windows. It's really a terrible problem, the amount of birds that die from striking windows. So, I mean, all important things that need to be out there, plus coming up with some, potential solutions.
Let's go back to that window striking. I know that we work with, after we saw what happened in Chicago with thousands of birds hitting these high rises, that because of the lights, because they migrate at night, don't they? A lot of them, and they're confused by the lighting. we work with Mayor Hogsett to get a proclamation. Can you describe what we got going here in Indianapolis about Lights Out Indy? And everyone should listen to this one.
I think you've been more involved in that than I have, Greg. Why don't you take that?
Well, okay. I asked the mayor to do a proclamation that during migration, particular migrations in May and September, October, that buildings, office buildings, turn off their lights at night or reduce them as these birds are hitting them as false in, silhouettes or whatever. And also our own homes, if the birds are coming from the south or from the north, though, if your home is situated, to put some kind of a strip of something on the windows, or darken your windows, or don't have a light shooting out, so these birds don't run into the glass. And I think it's been effective in that I went down. We got this through last April, and it's in effect basically. I have to have it renewed, but it's in the spring and the fall. And I noticed that the lights were much dimmer and much out late at night when we would go downtown and in those times, so those periods. And I haven't heard that there's been significant, I don't know, of these birds crashing in. And these are the most beautiful birds you can imagine. I mean, let me give you an example of a bird right over my face. This is a Blackburnian, isn't it?
Yes,
Donna?
Blackburnian warbler.
These are the kind of birds that are smashing into these windows and killing themselves. Sometimes they stun themselves, sometimes they break their necks. But they're migrating from the places that we're trying to protect them, whether it's the Hoosier Forest or in Colombia or Panama or Ecuador. And they have to get across the Caribbean, and hummingbirds have to get across the Caribbean. And I'll tell you why in a minute, why they have to get across that long expanse during migration. But then they die, and that's a tragedy. So this is called Bird Safe Indiana. Thank you, Kelly. Turn off your lights at night. Make your windows bird friendly. You can do that with a hawk imprint, or just don't have light shining out. And it does affect our homes. It's not just the buildings. It's not just Eric knows all the people that have these buildings and whatnot. Just the lights out at certain times really saves the same species. And here they're coming from Canada. They're feeding in Panama or whatever, and they're trying to get across the Caribbean, trying to find the best nests in Indiana or in the Hoosier Fair or Michigan or wherever, or up in the Arctic, and they smash into these windows, and that's the end. So there are thousands of birds that die, and Indianapolis has been doing its part now, as I assume Chicago is much better in trying to protect.
Greg, in Chicago last year, one night, they found 5,000 dead birds that hit the McCormick's Center in Chicago.
And they caused so much grief on that I believe that's been
yes,
modified, and that's what prompted us to do what we could do here in Indianapolis. Everyone can do something. That's about,
Greg,
that's about
Donna, just out of curiosity, what did Chicago do to the McCormick Center I saw they basically went from 5,000 to next to none hitting the windows. What did they do?
Well, so there's particular kinds of, I'm not sure the exact method they use, but there's particular kinds of glass that, they can put in that keep, that the birds don't, they recognize that there's a barrier there. So that's obviously what the problem is. They don't recognize that there's a barrier. There's decals, there's tape, there's things you can put up that, make it more so they can see that there's a barrier there. Okay, so I see they've put on the little dots. So
Yeah.
those are so close together that they can see that, and they realize there is something there. It's not something they can fly through.
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to McCormick, but I know architecturally there are certain kinds of glass that we can specify now that have a frit pattern that's essentially a series of small dots that the birds can see. Doesn't impact the visibility out a whole lot from the people that are inside the building, but seems to make a big difference in what the bird's perception is of whether they're running into a barrier or not.
So there's making a difference right there, what Eric could do and what every building owner can do. And of course, I think we've all sent out SOSs to the building owners, and I think it's getting, I've gotten good vibes back. I mean, nobody wants to kill birds, and the dark glass or the dotted glass or the stripes, I think it has made a difference. I don't know
And it also saves energy. It's kind of a win-win.
Right. It's
Yeah.
a win-win in that regard. That's right. Wasted light. That's right. One of the ways that I've found now, it's hard for me to see birds inside of trees at certain times. I mean, in the early spring and the late fall, I can see them better than with my binoculars, and that's a whole different field. And they're all these specialized uh, telescopes. But if you make the effort, you can also identify birds through various apps. Now, Cornell university has been a leader for years in ornithology, and they came up with this ingenious program that's called Merlin. It's a free bird identification app that you can get on your phone, and you put it out when you're walking, and you turn up, obviously, your sound, and you can pick up a sound of a yellow warbler. Okay, and it'll show up on your app as a picture. And here we're going to show you maybe an example of that. And from that app, you can hit the app afterwards, and it'll give you the sound. And now they've come to the point, and I'm not a technological person in regards to where they are now, but they are doing what's called a bird of the day. So you go on their app and you say, it says bird of the day, and you hit it, and it's whatever bird, the chickadee, I think was yesterday. And not only does it show you the bird, which some of us have what things are talking about that particular bird, but then you scroll down, it gives you information of what it is, where it is, habitat, and then you can hit a button and it gives you the sound. So in the old days, we used to go out and identify, that's a white-throated sparrow. Now I can hear it, and more than people like Donna knows, and I mean, experts, I could never really put the sound together with the bird. There was a person, a friend, Bud Starling, who started this kind of identification as part of Audubon and a part of Fox at Eagle Creek, and he could identify the sound as to what bird it was. Well, now you can push this button, hear the sound, and see the bird at the same time. It's remarkable. It's really increased the number of people that can identify and be involved with bird observation. So Merlin ID has now got 415 million users. No, that's not. It has Merlin Bird ID uses more than 450 million observations from eBird. So it discounts everything from truck noise to a bird that's from Madagascar into where you are locally. It's remarkable. Merlin. It is a free app, and I encourage anyone that's walking to see really what's out there. I mean, you hear them, whether it's an indigo bunting or whatever you're hearing. We're going to show you some pictures in a moment. These are magnificently beautiful birds, and then so are uncommon. And so you can tell, for example, when the spring comes, you're going to hear these red-winged blackbirds more, although we're hearing a few now. They're the first coming up. You can identify that bird quickly, but there are others that you may not be able to identify, and that they're also there when you're walking down the street, or you're walking in the park, or you're just walking. I find it more, I don't like to walk necessarily without just walking down the street. I like to walk in the forest, or I like to walk at least with the app so I can hear what's going on. It's amazing how fast the walk goes when you're listening for a bird. I know that sounds crazy, but I am appreciating the fact that the birds have been here long before us, and theoretically they're going to be here longer than we are, and that they all go back millions of years of evolution. So I would encourage you to look at Merlin app, bird app, and see what you think that Cornell's putting out. They put out a nice magazine also about where to bird and whatnot. Cornell's been a leader in environmental protection and identification of birds. Donna, anything you can add to that? I'm too verbose. Go ahead.
No, I think it's really it is a wonderful app. It is not 100% right, but it's probably 99.5% right, and it does help a lot of people to identify birds. I would recommend it. Yeah.
So that when you hear the cry of a pileated woodpecker, you can see its picture and hear it, and then double check its sound. I also can use it with owls. In the middle of the night, sometimes I'll hear an owl in my backyard. I don't know if it's barred owl or whatever it is, or screech owl or whatever, but I can put that out there, and it'll tell me. Now, and she said, as Donna said, it's not perfect. We're going to show you some pictures of some of our favorite birds, but first, Donna, is there anything you want to add to what we talked about, the international, the local, the Audubon Birdathon is now in progress. Any of you that would like to be a part of that, please contact Donna. We'll give you her email so you can join our Audubon Birdathon. And we're now taking applications for grants from all these various projects. Keep Indianapolis Beautiful, IU resident, IU, Marion College, Butler, whatever they're. And we're helping out with the city of Carmel, et cetera, to do various things they can't do with their own funds to identify and protect birds or observe birds or educate people about birds. So Donna McCarty will give you her email through Kelly, and maybe you want to join and help us this year and join a team. And we are now in that process of getting groups to apply. Let's see, questions. What questions anyone has about anything that we could help you with about understand why we bird? I mean, it isn't a funny W thing. This is something that really means a lot to our environment and to science and the National Science Foundation and the Fish and Wildlife Service. And that's why those agencies have to be funded, because they can determine bird flu issues. They can determine parasite issues. They can determine what birds are being affected more than anything else by climate and by flooding and by fires, and what birds resist fires, and what happened in California to wipe out various birds, or what birds went underground. Yeah, I know. It's more than just a pretty face.
And Greg, this is not so much about birds, but how do you keep squirrels out of bird feeders?
Not, I don't, I've given up on that particularly.
Okay, there are effective ways.
Donna, go. Donna.
You can get a pole feeder that's far enough away from a tree, they can't jump to it, put a baffle on it. They can't climb it. I have a tube feeder with a cage around it. They're too big to get into it. That doesn't mean that they don't try to get into it. They never give up. But there are some effective squirrel deterrents. Baffles, I would say, is one of the most effective. If you can, put a pole out there, keep them from climbing up the pole far enough away where they can't jump on it. I've had one that's been 100% effective for years. So
well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What are some of the obviously lows and birds, other bird stores? I have those kind of baffles and I would think that some expertise would help. But I've seen them climb wires like a high wire act. I've seen well, of course, there's other animals that are involved with this, including the ever-present raccoon, which was like a vacuum at the end of the day. So
yeah, then you need to get a bigger baffle.
Yeah, right. Those guys I've seen them hanging upside down. I mean, those raccoons, but and they get up when we're asleep. So, it's hard to get them off of there. So yeah, the answer is maybe you can do something. Good question. Other questions? Anything else about?
Donna, it sounds like you have quite a setup there at your home. I'm just curious if there's anything you've ever seen where you're like, holy smokes, I'm getting my camera, I'm getting my binoculars, I'm reporting this. Like, what's the one bird you've seen where it just knocked your socks off at your home?
Well, I mean, I get a lot of birds here, nothing that would have made the rare bird list. But like this winter, after we had the big snow, I had 5 fox sparrows show up. I mean, that's not a bird that normally people get at their feeders. It's a beautiful reddish brown sparrow. That's why they call it fox sparrow, larger than the others. I mean, I've had the pilot since we got this little ice storm. Boy, my feeders have been busy. I've got, about 6 species of woodpeckers that come, including the pileated. I mean, not super rare, but spectacular bird. I had 17 species on the Christmas bird count just from my feeders. So, just between, I get a lot of bluebirds. I mean, always exciting. Of course, I've had 20 cardinals out here. Just the regular birds that you get, can be pretty neat, even though I just had a Cooper's hawk trying to hunt one at my bird feeder. Just seeing the birds that normally you might find in the area, I think is very exciting.
Putting food back does help. Obviously, we're helping them beat the odds. They do have natural foods, obviously, and I've seen some of in the winter. And when we had that bad storm, when it was 0, I saw them going to the remnants of the plants whether it was wild plants that were in my yard or getting those seeds. But I've also seen pileated woodpeckers come to the feeder together in the snow, which is beautiful. They just and bluebirds, you just never know because they're desperate for food, or at least they appear to be. So we use quite a bit of seed that's sunflower seed, various different types of mixes that for particular birds. But believe me, when it's like a zero and it's covered with snow, you're going to see them digging also in the ground. They know how to survive, and that's one of the most remarkable things of all, how they survive when it's zero. Donna, do you have any ideas other than, I mean, do they have
I mean, it's all food, how much food they can get. They can keep their body temperature up if they have enough food. And the fact is, they forage for natural, their natural food sources most of the time. Those fox sparrows that I just talked about, when the weather warmed up and the snow left, I didn't see them at my feeders. Today, when we had the ice storm, they're back. It's more important now. But obviously, they preferred foraging for their natural food when conditions were not so bad. So, I mean, bird feeders, we put them out because we like to see the birds up close to our homes. But in certain weather conditions, a lot of deep snow, an ice storm, it does become a little more important.
I've seen two other phenomenons. I'm sure some of you saw it was called the flight of the penguins in Antarctica, where they all banded together. Well, I think we have birds doing the same thing in this cold. For example, Donna, you've seen those juncos all together. They come in and come out. I'm sure they're huddling together. Inside of a tree.
Bluebirds will huddle together in a bluebird box or a tree cavity. Yes. So some species will. Yeah.
Oak trees are important well to their survival. And that is something. Then I've noticed another phenomenon, and then we'll show this little film we have, is how male cardinals and some other species feed their female companion. I've seen that, only noticed it in the last few years, but I thought that was very interesting that male cardinals feed female cardinals. Have you seen that, Donna?
Well, yeah, but here's what's interesting. That's just during mating season. During the winter, they're chasing them off the feeders. This is my food. But yeah, then when mating season comes around, it's the females that pick the males. So then they start thinking, okay, if I'm going to get a female to pick me, I better do something that, so the males will feed the females, but the rest
of the time, is the mating.
Yeah, just the mating season.
This is the mating season now, and that's why we're hearing the hooting of the great horned owl and others.
Oh, for owls it is, yeah, a little early for other species.
A little early, and those goldfinch are turning yellow. All right. We'll show this little film of some of our favorite birds. Maybe you can comment on, Donna, on some of these birds that Kelly has been putting together.
Oh, yeah, scarlet tanager, yeah.
Now, when do we see this bird in Indiana?
Yeah, so that's a summer resident, but that's a breeding bird. But that's a bird that spends the winter, in Central and South America. So we need to protect the habitat down there so that we have them coming back in the spring and breeding here in the summer.
And notice the female's yellowish, not red. So
right.
Interesting. And that one, I believe we've tracked that one into Brazil and to Colombia. The ornithologists have. Okay, Kelly, try another one.
But it's also important to remember those flashy males, it's the females that pick the males, not other way around.
Say that again.
And then here's
the females pick the males.
A common
females pick the males. Okay. Now, so this is our bluebird.
Yeah, that's our bluebird. And like I say, here on Hoosier Village, on this campus, we have a lot of bluebirds. There's been a lot of putting out bluebird boxes. That has been very successful because when I first started birding, I did not see bluebirds near as often as I do now. And people that never used to have bluebirds in their yards have bluebirds. So that's been a very good success story. I buy
I haven't seen
bags of dried mealworms, put them out for the bluebirds. They love them.
Dried fieldworms. I have seen them often in the past migrating, but they're around. So this is one of my favorite birds, the osprey. And if you haven't seen an osprey dive into Eagle Creek Park or anywhere else and come up with a fish, you've really something. Again, coming back from the DDT days, I was walking at Eagle Creek once with the president of Sierra Club, and we were just walking. And all of a sudden, this osprey dove right in front of us and came up with a red goldfish. I will never forget that. It was so stunning that I just never forgot it. But what can you say, Donna, about the osprey? And it is
Yeah,
here.
osprey, there actually has been a pair that's been nesting on a cell tower right outside the north entrance of Eagle Creek Park on Lafayette Road for the last 2 years. And I fully expect them to be back for a third year. So I lead bird hikes on Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock. We meet at the Ornithology Center. Once the ospreys are back, that'll be one of my first stops, is to look at that cell tower and watch the ospreys. It's been fascinating.
They're so majestic, and reminding you again, 9 o'clock at the Ornithology Center, which was the Feldman Nature Center at Eagle Creek, is a fantastic
Yes.
way to exercise and see these birds. Now, we've been seeing this bird, believe it or not, at Eagle Creek Park in the last few years. And not first we had one or two, the great American white pelican, either coming from the north, going from the south, whatever. Donna can talk about this. They are so magnificent and so large. And for me, this is something that most people don't know, that we would have white pelicans at Eagle Creek Park behind the Ornithology Center in some numbers significantly. And as they take off, you'll see the beauty of the wings. And just look at that bird. Donna, what can you tell us about the white pelican? It's been in and out. I haven't seen it in the last
Yeah,
few weeks.
okay, so American white pelicans, people don't realize, like Greg says, you can come out and see them at Eagle Creek Park. Now that's during migration, spring and fall. So usually, next month, probably we'll start seeing white pelicans come through. I've seen 150 out there. They'll stay around for a few weeks, or different groups will come in. They are freshwater pelicans, not like the brown pelicans that are on coastal birds. So they actually breed north and west of Indiana, but they come through Indiana on their migration, like heading south, like to Florida, spring and fall. So yeah, come out to Eagle Creek Park in March, and you will probably have a pretty good chance of seeing white pelicans out there.
magnificent bird, absolutely magnificent. And yes, it's going up into Canada as well. Kelly, we have a couple more, do we? Yeah, I think she has some. Okay, talk to me about, obviously, a goldeneye. You talk, Donna, I get confused with some of the birds that we see behind the Nature Center or behind the Ornithology Center. But when we see this bird, it's just, and we have seen it just recently.
Yes, yeah, so they might be out there right now. Some of the water, it froze over for a while, but now the channel's open and the main reservoir is open. And so, yeah, we get these common golden eyes. You can see that's why they're named that. They have a gold eye, and the males are very easy to identify because of the white body, the beautiful black and white wing pattern, and that white cheek patch.
And they are migratory, again, going up north. I was once in Iceland and I saw them on the tundra, on the Arctic in June or July. And here they were here in Indiana in March or April. This is one of my favorites. I do everything I can to put the right feeder out, the right combination of, what is it, water 1 to 4, sugar 1 to 4.
1 to 4,
and
make
they
your
do-
own. Don't put red dye in it. Don't buy the stuff with red dye. Just make sugar water, and don't use organic raw sugar either. Just pure cane sugar is the best, but any kind of regular bleached sugar, and 1 to 4. Don't, the red.
They've been doing pretty well. Yes,
Yeah, the
go
red
ahead.
on the feeders attracts them. This is our only species of hummingbird in the eastern United States. So
That hummingbird is interesting because it may, if successful, getting across the Gulf and back to wherever it goes, Costa Rica or whatever, that it may find your home. It may find your home again with its offspring. And here's another one that I absolutely love, and it's always at Eagle Creek on the walk around in June and the
yeah,
yellow
so
warbler.
starting in April,
April.
May, June, I can guarantee you yellow warblers on the cofferdam.
And they always come there. That's the walk around behind this Ornithology Center, and they have a distinctive sound. They are so beautiful. Those stripes are red, And I've seen them in Latin America, so I know they are down in Costa Rica, Guatemala in the winter. And so again, survival is everything. We probably have time for one or two more birds. We're done. Maybe. Kelly, I want to thank you for doing what you're doing here. Oh, another great one. Donna, you want to talk about indigo bunting?
Oh my gosh, just a spectacular bird. If you see that in the sunlight, that blue is just almost iridescent. It's the interesting thing about birds with blue feathers is they're not really pigmented blue. It is a refraction of light. So when they're in the shade, they can appear almost black. But boy, you get one of these, they're a very common bird. Don't have them in the winter. But when they come back, not very many people get them to a bird feeder either, but they're very common. Beautiful, beautiful bird.
Well, we hope that you've learned a bit about why we go out and sometimes in the storms or in the winter or in the summer when it's hot. And there are various people that have gone with us over the years. I can think of Governor Frank O'Bannon going with some of us, how much he enjoyed the bird, and his talking to me about birding when he was trying to do some fundraisers, which was crazy. He would always say, well, what bird did you see today? So birds are, it's kind of a circle. I've been trying to figure out exactly, they came from dinosaurs. They live in the trees, so we have to protect the trees they live in. They get nutrients and food from the various trees and plants. They need fresh water. They need rain. It can't be too dry. It can't be too hot. It's kind of it's very difficult, and they have to have access to the water or to an ocean. But if it works, these counts can show us what needs to be preserved, what has to be protected for life itself. So I hope you've enjoyed our jumping around about why we count birds. It's more than just numbers, that's for sure. And Donna, thank you so much for doing what you just did. And Kelly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Greg, thanks for bringing Donna, and Donna, thank you so much for joining us for this meeting. We had the good fortune of having an eagle's nest in our neighborhood, so we've been really watching the eagles mate and reproduce, and then the offspring falling out of the nests and learning how to fly, and it's really a fascinating process and just amazing how they go through their lifespans. Mary or Donna will be making a donation. Sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Donna will be making a donation in your honor to the Mary Rigg Neighborhood Center, a thriving community resource in Southwest Indianapolis that provides youth enrichment services, including after school and summer day camp programming, and supports families seeking help, hope, and better opportunities. So thanks again for joining us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for everyone's time, and have a great day.